Welcome back to the big issue discussing the COVID-19 and its impact on various spheres of Ghanaian life and also even global, the global economy and other things. And I'm doing this conversation this morning with Dr. Delali Jacko, a medical practitioner, Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa. The Honorable Nusa Fusini will join us in a bit. Alexander Aban, Deputy Health Minister, is also here. And he's the one I'm asking a couple of questions to. Now, Honorable, people in messages we get during the past week have expressed concern about the airport protocols. Now, we know you've reiterated several times that, when you enter the port of entry, we are doing the contact tracing or whatever it is, surveillance, we are taking down records and whatnot. Can you take us through the process? What exactly happens when you get to the airport? Because people are not convinced. A lot of people seem to feel that they are just walking through.
Thank you very much. At the point of entry, at the airport, you are first required to fill in the declaration form, the health declaration form. In the health declaration form, places that you have visited within the past 14 days, even your seat number, your contact number, and all that. And then, of course, there are questions as to whether you show symptoms of the disease, right? So you would declare whether you do or not. Then, before you get to immigration, your temperature is taken, right? If your temperature is taken and you are above the normal temperature, normal human temperature, then you are isolated to the holding room. There you may be made to sit for some 30, 40 minutes, right? Just to calm down, just in case, there was an upsurge in your temperature or something like that. But thereafter, if they realize that the temperature is still abnormal, then you will not be allowed to go home. Okay. They will have to then still keep you and go for testing. They take your samples, go for testing to prove whether you are positive or negative. Okay. Before the next line of action would be taken. From a hindsight,
in those steps, you did not talk about education of incoming guests or citizens or residents or visitors, whatever it is. Considering you get to the port, they take the details, but nobody talks to you about self-quarantine or anything of that sort.
It is done.
It's done there?
Yes.
They tell you what, because a lot of people say they come in, they go through this process, and then they're allowed to go and hug their family members and go away.
It is done. In terms of the education, it is done. But for me, my worry here is that all the cases that we have identified, or let me say 17 out of the 19 cases that we have identified, were all imported. It tells me that those clinicians, those who are, directly involved, should change the protocols, because what it means then is that temperature alone may not be able to isolate those who may have the virus, because if that were the case, all of them should have shown abnormal temperature at the point of entry, and they should have been isolated. Now, all of them wriggled through because temperature was so normal. So meaning that these people were asymptomatic, right? Yet they were carrying the virus, right? That's why I'm calling that we have to make sure that something else is done. For me, I think that we have got to a point where everybody who is entering must be quarantined. That's my thinking.
Have you put this to your committees?
These discussions are ongoing, right? But with an additional 3, please. I think we are getting there.
Okay, then when you go to your next meeting, you go and put that point out
because for me, this is not to doubt the Ghanaian, but the point is that our cultural imperatives are such that the person would not just come and say that, oh, I've been asked to go into self-quarantine, so don't come to me. Of course, we can make mention of, let's say, Mr. Ekufu, who decided, that's Ursula's husband, who decided that, look, I've just traveled, I've come back, I'm going to self-isolation. Others, for reason of sheer indiscipline, would not even do it. He would just walk with the false assumption that, look, I'm fine. So, right? I mean, we are human beings. I think I read something in the showbiz thing about this guy out there. I don't know his name. I think one of those celebrities who was supposed to be in self-quarantine, but he had to break protocol and go to his girlfriend's birthday. I read it on Ghana Web. I mean, just before I got here, or just yesterday. Okay. So you see that it's part of the human being. Okay. And so probably the time has come where anybody who is coming from a country that has recorded 200 or more, okay,
irrespective of citizenship, should be quarantined.
As for those who are not citizens, we are not even allowing them in.
Okay.
Those who are citizens. Come again.
Do you have the space for that? We heard yesterday you added the UGMC.
It's not that we added the UGMC. It has been there. That's the worst case scenario. Let me put it that way. Okay. The ICUs are for worst case scenarios where your respiratory system has already been taken over by the virus. I don't know how I will put it better in medical terms, but if I should put it this way, your respiratory system has already been taken over by the virus and you are unable to breathe. Then they have to take you to the ICU and then you'll be helped with ventilators to be able to breathe. You understand?
Okay.
So yesterday, I'm taking this opportunity to at least explain a little because you go there and say, oh, 16 beds. Somebody say, but we already have 16 cases. So in that case, we don't have this. Please, that is not meant for just the ordinary cases. It is meant for
the ICU cases.
The ICU, yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Franklin Kujo is here. Franklin, I just want to wrap up with Dr. Jaku before you come in, so do forgive me.
That's fine.
Fine. Now, Dr. Jaku has a few points to make, but let me just read a couple of messages, and then I'll wrap up with Dr. Jaku so he can go, and then we continue. Messages coming in. Let's see. Please, we should stop this hygiene rhetoric. In as much as I'm not against taking precautions, the people living in Crystal Palace, where sanitation is top-notch, embedded. Well, Jerry Chichudu, this your message is some way. Okay. Godfred, thank you and your panelists for the education this morning. I want to know that, one, if the virus touches food on fire, what happens to it? If by mistake it is the food and you eat and take it in hot water, will you die? If you wash your hands with gloves on it and apply sanitizer, are you safe? These are questions. Well, these are questions that Ghanaians are asking that they want answers to. But I'm sure, Maxwell, if you listened to Dr. Jaku explain, these questions have been answered for you. So let's see. The closure of schools and all public gatherings is a good idea. So-called stakeholders, we have to keep an eye on the Ghana-Togo border because travelers from Togo enter Ghana without any checks, and this is dangerous. And he says, Atia Maxwell in Garu. He says he lives in Garu, and he's very worried by it. Bernard Awudiye says, the undeniable fact that the number of confirmed cases has increased does not mean that we should panic. Ghanaian people should stay calm and follow safety measures we shall overcome. I agree, we need to stay calm, but also stay responsible. Very, very important. Nana from Tema says, good morning. Please ask the government why they delayed with all these measures. We need explanation. I don't think you need an explanation. We just need them to do better. Dr. Jaku.
Yeah.
On testing.
Okay.
It seems to be what a lot of people are saying. We should test more. But there was also a story in the Daily Graphic front page of 2 days ago from a very senior health personnel who said, I think it was the Greater Accra Regional Medical Health Director, actually, who spoke about if you are not showing symptoms, don't come and say, let's test you. But there are those who also, if you read, I listened to one of the medical experts from China who has been sent to Milan to help, because Milan is one of the worst hit places. And at his arrival press conference, he chided the Italian authorities for not testing. And he said, you have to test. If you look at the South Korea case, for instance, where a comparison was run, the Koreans are doing 20,000 tests a day, where even in America, they were nationally 25,000 tests as of 2 days ago. So there are those who seem to think that we should test. But we've also been made to understand that testing is not cheap. So if you are running a test, you better be certain you are running a test for a good reason.
Okay. I hear you. Like I said, this is an evolving epidemic. It is an evolving epidemic. Every single day we learn something new about this condition. Well, first thing I'll say is Ghanaians don't need to panic. Mm-hmm. But like you said, we need to be responsible, we need to be informed, we need to be empowered to take the right decisions. Now, when it comes to the disease and what we keep learning about it, let me give you a few things here. So initially, our concept was that you can only spread it when you are symptomatic. Mm-hmm. And for the purpose of you being symptomatic, you can spread it by contact, you can spread it by droplets. Now, as of 3 days ago, we have about 3 different articles, one from the Dutch, one from the Japanese, and one from the New England Journal of Medicine, saying that airborne for 3 hours, if somebody coughs, it can stay in 3 hours in airborne, is now also part of the contact spread. Mm-hmm. Now, we also know that asymptomatic people who do not have symptoms, can spread the virus. So the question here is, looking at our systems in place right now, I do not blame governments because we're working with the information that they had at the time. Because like I said, it is an evolving epidemic. So you have a situation, the minister spoke about the health surveillance, questionnaire that people are filling, which is responder dependent because you expect the person to be truthful with his answers. And if the person lies, he still passes through. It's also symptom dependent. So if the person doesn't have symptoms, he walks through. But here's the case that, like he rightly alluded to, you have people who have gone through this system, are in country, and are being tested positive, having come from outside, having walked through essentially our surveillance system. Because we are now confirming that about 48% of the people who got infected in China got infected by asymptomatic spread. I'm saying somebody who gets infected today, between his symptoms will develop within 3 days to up to 14 days. Within that period of asymptomatic state, that he's not showing any symptoms, he's not coughing, he's not having a fever, he's not having any of these things that we are looking out for in our questionnaire, he can still be spreading it. When he is symptomatic, he can still be spreading it. Even 30 days after he has recovered, he can still be spreading it. So our systems should take this into account. So that in as much as you're asking the person that has he traveled, has he done this, is his temperature high, he may have essentially good health. And our current system, in fact, has recognized this asymptomatic issue. And even for the current plan that Ghana is even doing, your contact tracing is not even starting from when you got symptomatic. Our contact tracing is even starting from 2 days before you even had symptoms. So even our professionals and our experts have recognized that there is some degree of asymptomatic spread. Of course, not many people can recall beyond 2 days of their contacts, but we are stretching that far to even pick those people also as part of our contact spread. You are looking at a situation where, for most people, if you're looking at about 4, let's say if you take 4 individuals, if person A was the person who was positive, and he goes to the bank, his relatives, or so and so, let's call that person C. He will be able to give you all the people he went, all the places he went, all the people he went to see, those person C's, when doing your contact tracing. But a person B, he may have passed by and had a brief conversation with of more than 15 minutes. Before going to see person C, he may forget to give you that person. Person B may be that person he may have shared a public transport with that was not following the protocols, either of hand washing, either of social distancing, either of good ventilation. That person B is there. And that person B also doesn't know that he's infected. After you have gotten person A and person C, all contact traced. And he only starts showing symptoms 2 weeks later when he's symptomatic. Within that period, he was also spreading to person B1, B2, B3, B, and give it to a D. So your issue here, that's why, like you rightly said, the Chinese are showing us the way. And they are saying, look, advance your capacity to test.
So that's what we should focus on.
And social distancing. These are the things that have been shown to be effective. Look, China puts 930-something million people on lockdown. Think about it. In January, 900 and something people
million
stay home. Reduce your movement. Empty streets in China. You need to hit this thing head on. Like he's saying, he's going to Italy now and telling them that, look, don't joke with case definition, because you're not going to get as many people with your case definition. You're only getting the person A's and the person B's who are now being symptomatic. You are not going to get the person B's and B1s and B2s. But you also need them because they are still spreading. 48% of the people who had it in China got it from asymptomatic people. And that's what the research is telling us now. It is coming slightly late, but it is still timely for us to do something about it. Let's listen. Let's do something about it.
Okay.
The other thing I'd like to say is that the COVID-19 thing here, or disease here, is not just a test for government. It's a test of our governance, yes. It's also a test of our healthcare system. It's also a test of our social capital as a people. Because what decisions government takes are relevant. Are we locking down? Are we not locking down? Are we fumigating areas? Are we not fumigating areas? Are we closing our borders? These are governments. And when I say governance, I don't mean just the government of Ghana. The governance of your institution, your company, your school, the various institutions. What measures, what risk assessments are they done? What control measures have they put in place? That is a test of that governance. Our healthcare system, like he rightly said, when people are, the protocol we are operating, when people are sick, we don't want them to rush to the health centers, because that would rather increase the chances of either health workers or other patients who are not even yet been exposed, getting exposed. So we isolate you in your homes and in certain isolated places that we have particularly selected and designed for that particular purpose. So if you are symptomatic, call those numbers that have been posted out and let the response teams come to you. Don't rush to the clinic and infect other people or even health workers. And then look at it. We are in a situation where we don't have the capacity of ICUs like you have in the US and in the UKs and the Italies and the rest. So we shouldn't let our disease case numbers reach a certain level, a certain threshold where people can overburden our healthcare system. Because that is when we are really in trouble. Okay. Because then you even increase the risk of healthcare workers also being infected and reducing your staff even the more.
To fight.
Italy just graduated all their medical students. Whether they had no exams was conducted. You are doctors now because we need you. That is where we don't want to get to, because the system has been so overwhelmed. On social capital, we're talking about people raising the prices of sanitizers and the like. Drivers driving Okadas and tricycles and things where they can't practice social distancing, and yet we are still allowing them on our roads. People not being conscious, like you are saying, being indisciplined, knowing full well that he came from a country that was has a high this thing, coming to hug his relatives and possibly spreading it. Possibly he may be asymptomatic, as we are realizing now. Because look, it's a test of our Ghanaianism. Let me put it that way.
Ghanaianness.
Yeah, our social capital. Your part as an individual, your hand washing, your sanitizing, your face mask wearing, your cough etiquette. All of these things are things you are doing not just for yourself, but for your daughter, for your son, for your mother, for your uncle, for your boss. Because you may appreciate that the majority of people who are getting it, 80% are having mild disease. Yes. Mortality rate is not as bad as SARS and MERS. Yes. But for the 20%, look, SARS killed 800 people, more or less. Out of it infected 8,000 people in 2002. It killed about 800 people. That's like just about 10%, 9 to 10%. So far, we have over 80,000 deaths alone and 200,000 plus cases, the infectivity of this is high. So it's not about the mortality rate, no, but the absolute numbers are significant. So do your part to prevent somebody from getting it, even if you may be in the category of people that may not necessarily be at most risk of, let's say, dying from it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Delali Jaku. Very, very profound thoughts he has shared, and I hope we all take the things that he's saying very seriously. Franklin, let's have your take on this. And Honorable Aban, before Franklin comes in, a lot of people are saying, they are saying there is no education on self-quarantine given at the airport.
This is the reason why a portion of that budget that is being used, presumably being used to educate people, should go to the likes of Dr. Jaku. And then he should probably head a cohort of like-minded people to educate. Because I've never had any form of education, not through the public, nothing, absolutely zilch. As explained, from the way we even use hand sanitizers.
You know, the hand sanitizer one was the first for me too.
Well, so it tells you
how to wash the hands. It was the first.
Who are those doing the education? I don't want to see my minister for local government going around dishing out, what's it called?
Veronica Bucket.
Those
are important too.
I'm saying they should, but they should be accompanied with some serious education. And if the frontline workers are also being used, they should be sufficiently well grounded in education. I mean, this show should be replayed several times. Because, the deputy minister is here, and he properly defers to him, clearly, that he's not a medical person. But I also understand that we need to know what the protocols really are, and education is important. I've been sufficiently well educated, in spite of the fact that I've heard tomes from global media, right? Mm-hmm. This is a challenge to our human existence. And if we approach it the way we think we would approach every issue in Ghana, we might perhaps be annihilated very soon. I mean, the whole issue about lockdowns, I'm sure those were the conversations you guys had in Parliament. There are some academic conversations going on as to whether the president needs to declare state of emergency first before, imposing some of the restrictions. I mean, those things I suspect could be discussed. Indosa is coming.
Yes, yeah.
Then we'll get into those. But I think
those are legal matters.
Those are legal matters. And then, so you sort those out.
Yesterday we were in Parliament together.
But the issues around, the education that needs to go down is pretty much important. And I think some media houses are trying, but the depth is actually quite narrow. And I think it's important that if we could have audio bites of what Dr. Jaku, right?
Yeah, Blood
Jaku. And others who are equally giving. I think the other gentleman who joined us the last time, from the
Dr.
director of Port. No. Director, you were not here. Yes. So, director for Port Health. Just forgotten the name. I mean, but I think this is very, very educative, and I think we need to reiterate. I think there are no knowns, as Donald Ransford will say, but it looks as if there are unknown unknowns. The more you try to understand these diseases, it's becoming very clear to us that a lot of us are getting to know the disease, the nature of the disease as we go along, right? And so for me, this is no longer ground zero. This is, I don't know how to describe it. This is something it's scary. I mean, that's the word I like to use. It's very, very scary. And where were you the last time? Why were you not here on Saturday?
We can discuss that later.
Did you go to Asia?
No, I did not.
All right, well, but I think it's important.
You were told I was in Wuhan. I would not be here if I had been in Wuhan. Yeah. You can't even enter, as an actor, you couldn't even enter Wuhan, as he said. They will not allow you inside.
So we should pray, but we should also be wise.
Sanda, thank you very much for putting me into trouble.
I understand we should pray. The president held prayers with the bishops, and it is useful. The vice president held prayers with the imams, and it's also useful. But at this juncture, prayer alone cannot save us. I think we are on our own on this planet. And I think we need to act immediately and quickly
All right, Frank, hold on for me. Let me just take a few quick messages and then we go on break so that I bring in Honorable Inusa Fuseni. Now, Ben from Aguna Swedru says, I think the total shutdown of the country will be the best option. Since, like Honorable Aban said, our cultural discipline in this country is very poor. Moreover, more education should go on. Greetings to your panelists, especially Honorable Aban. I heard Honorable Deputy talking about space. I suggest we convert the Saglemi housing to quarantine everyone entering the country. Kwesi Owari with that suggestion from Taifa. He says, let's stay safe. Okay. Schoolboy from Ofakoba says, please, I want to know when the government is going to give us a report about all the contact tracing because we are worried. Well, the government gives very regular updates on contact tracing. 2 days ago, there was an update. 381 persons had been tracked as at that time. I'm sure we'll get another update on Sunday at 1 p.m.
Yes.
So my good friend who sent this message, Sunday 1 p.m., just watch Citi TV. You will get that update when the Minister for Information...
Can I interject a bit?
Yes, quickly.
Look, in Uganda, maybe they may be crude, but this is what they've done. Because a while ago, I was hearing conversations about people who come to the airport, and all of a sudden, some of them are allowed to go home and what have you. In Uganda, as soon as you arrive, whether you are Ugandan or not,
they are locking you up.
They are locking you up in hotels. In fact, they locked a group of people out for 2 days. They were made to pay the hotel bills, but then they negotiated for the reduction of the hotel bill because they can't just take chances. So this business of people coming from infected places and then being allowed to come in because some gun was pointed at them, well, Uganda is not taking it at all. Because as Doctor has explained, the 3 levels of infections, of course, the symptomatic, the asymptomatic, and then who?
Yeah, the people who, what do you call it? The contact through the general contact. Yes, either.
I mean, if you are looking at the time lag, just pointing a gun probably is not enough. No. You must do a lot more.
Okay, point well made. We should have a facility or specialized transportation to a hotel somewhere accompanied by national security who will also ensure they don't move out anywhere. This one I can confirm is done. I think the day I was arriving, for instance, there were some people who were being guided into isolation somewhere. Special transportation with security. So that's one I can tell you is available. Let's see. The president has banned all gatherings, but the Electoral Commission is in Kajebi is going on conducting interviews for applicants. Meanwhile, there are several porous borders in Kajebi. Please, we are all in difficult times here due to this COVID-19. We want our relatives and brothers to be safe. So kindly inform the government to call the EC in Kajebi district to stop what they are doing. Elections will come and go, but don't let citizens die before elections. Godfred, I think the big mistake was not forcibly quarantining all returnees at the airport for 14 days. It's not too late anyway, says Amma. So those are the messages that have come in. Keep sending them 0549 986 996, 0549 986 996 for those of you outside the country, plus 233 549 986 996 or plus 233 550 585832 on Twitter at Citi TV 9. Citi TV, the hashtag is the big issue. Also at Citi973, the hashtag is the big issue. Dr. Jacko, I'll give you 10 seconds and then we wrap up on this segment.
My last comments will be relative to the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals, for which I'm an executive board member of. And we are closely looking at the situation. We have a lot of professionals in the health and safety department, and we are trying to see how best we can do by way of... Do you have a budget?
Okay, let him talk. We can do the budget after.
No, because they need to be given money.
No, I have very limited time.
Yes, so we're looking at how we can do the education direct. We have actually just issued a press statement.
From here, is he going? I need to get his contact.
Don't worry.
Accidentally, yes.
Yes, we've actually just released a press statement today.
Please send it to us.
Yes, I'll send it to you. I think key things we are talking about are what we've already discussed, the risk assessment that needs to be done at the various health and occupational centers by way of reducing and controlling measures. Something personal to our heart is this sanitizer price hikes,
yeah.
that needs to be addressed. Another thing is
and then water.
the motorcycles, the
water.
tricycles, and all of these smaller vehicles that do not allow for social distancing. We are advocating that they be banned, and in fact, they are banned per law, but the enforcement be done on the part of our police officers.
Right. So send me that statement.
We will do that.
I will read it out
we
in
will
full.
Do that.
The big issue will take a quick break. When we return, Honorable Yunus Afuseni, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, will come and tell us why his side of the House resisted, and I think to a certain extent succeeded in getting certain amendments to the imposition of restrictions law or act. Now, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the big issue discussing COVID-19 and its effects on various aspects of our lives. And your messages are still coming in on 0549986996 and 0550585832. And I have one from Omanjo. Peter from Omanjo says, good morning, Godfred. Yesterday I saw on Twitter that 7 persons are recovering. How true is this? Also, as at 1500 GMT, Fred updated his WhatsApp status that cases have risen to 19. Today I checked, and I checked yesterday and it was 16, but today it's 19. Well, the case is R19, and if you're looking for updates, just stick with the official channel, which is the Ghana Health Service. All these WhatsApps that are going around and tweets that are going around. If you want a proper update, just stick with the Ghana Health Service. If they say it's 19, it's 19. In this, particular scenario, your best friend does not have more information than the Ghana Health Service. Okay, so just stick with them. So 17 of them have been reported as imported cases. Now, talking of imported cases, one text message says, closing the borders is only one part of the solution. What about those in communities? There should be a stay at home and only essential workers will go to work. Well, in Ghana, essential workers are very few. Everybody else is in the informal sector. So that one too is another thing for the government to consider. Let me see what other messages have come through. Franklin sounds scared. Wisdom from Sunyai. Well, Franklin should sound scared. Why is government not using the passenger manifest of all flights that have entered into the country over the past 1 month to round up all those who have entered into the country for testing of coronavirus instead of waiting for them to start showing symptoms? If we wait, we may be too late because the community spread may have been done already. Edward from Kaswa sent that one in. A call from DC says, hello, Godfred, I think we should all presume the person next to us has the virus. This will keep us on our toes in keeping the precaution measures. Please, Godfred, the government should, as a matter of urgency, review flight protocols. No caveats. Ban all flights that are coming into Ghana, like what other African countries are doing. All indications show most of the cases are imported. The government is being reckless in dealing with this issue. If we follow our preventive measures and pray, government is reckless in dealing with this issue. It goes to nothing. I'm very, very angry. George from Yarefa. Well, he says he's very angry, so you can understand why he's texting the way he is. So keep the messages coming through. Let me go to Honorable Yunus Afuseni. So Honorable Yunus Afuseni, 2 days ago, we heard about an imposition of restrictions bill. It was presented before the House in the evening. Honorable Muntaka, who's the minority leader of the House, expressed his discomfort with the nature of the bill that had been laid by the Attorney General, Madam Gloria Kufu, and said the powers were sweeping. Later on, we had an official statement from your side of the House that you did not support it. It still went through, and I think it was passed yesterday. Can you walk us through what the concerns were and what amendments have been made to what we have now?
So thank you so very much for this opportunity to be part of this program. On the 18th of March, the Attorney General laid the imposition of restrictions bill 2020 under a certificate of urgency in the House of Parliament. The bill was referred to the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs for a determination whether or not that bill was of urgent nature. When we went for the committee meeting, the minority on the committee were of the view that, in view of the matters contained in the view and the attempt, as said by the Attorney General, to put in place a broad framework to deal with situations of a similar nature in future, situations of disasters, emergencies, and so on for the future. We needed time to be able to couch a legal regime that will be robust enough to deal with such emergencies in the future. We also said that because the bill was not specifically coronavirus, coronavirus is what is plaguing this country now, plaguing the world now, that coronavirus is what is raising concerns. And we're given to understand that the bill is not about coronavirus. The bill actually is about giving the president power to suspend or impose restrictions pursuant to Article 21(4) C, D, and E. And if that was the case, in any situation that you have to deal with a suspension or imposition or affect the human rights of persons, you need to be careful in order not to constitute your government or your president into a dictator or a tyrant. Okay, so we needed to be very careful in doing that, and that warranted that needed time. Well, the deal, the bill itself, in the way it came, didn't have safeguards for anybody.
What do you mean by safeguards?
I mean, there were no procedural limitations. Even if you look at Article 31, Article 31 is the article that deals with the emergency powers of the president. But even with that, it contains a lot of safeguards. He must declare, that declaration must be on the advice of the Council of State. He must publish that declaration in a gazette. He must lay it in Parliament within 7 days. Parliament can refuse can revoke the declaration of state of emergency, or they approve. If they revoke, the president will have to act accordingly. The declaration can only be in place for 3 months. Thereafter, he has to come back for renewal. And when he is placing the declaration before Parliament, he must give the facts and circumstances that leads to that declaration. So you see, in there you find a lot of safeguards, okay, because they know that this country and any other country in the world is not ruled by angels. It's ruled by human beings, and they're capable of being tyrannical. And so we didn't have that. Powers were just unfettered. The president's powers, if the president is satisfied. I mean, that language is reminiscent of a PDA or the Profession Custody Decree. If the president is satisfied, I mean, how do we, if there are reasonable grounds, I mean, how do we determine those? So we thought that, or if he's scared. And then lastly, when you look at the Constitution, Article 21(4)(e), it's not about coronavirus. It's about people propagating or exhibiting hate against others. I mean, that's not about coronavirus. Or somebody doing things that desecrate the national symbols or emblems. That's not about coronavirus. And so it got our antennas up. I see it coming back to Muntietre. Is it targeting the journalists or people who speak? Why is he trying to claw back on freedom of expression and speech? Why?
But it's not the precedent.
Freedom of speech is not covered.
Let him finish.
That is in B. It's not covered.
I think they rushed.
Let him
No,
finish.
are not covered.
We didn't rush.
Let him finish.
No,
As
they are
though
not
there is no
Which one can be?
Let
A
him
and
finish.
B are on freedom of speech and expression.
No. I'm not talking about.
And B is freedom of thought.
No.
That's what you were
I think
saying.
he's
But I'm saying
referring
that
to
you-
the.
No, I'm not referring to that.
It's not referring to
Because you mentioned
No.
journalists. Because there is. Okay,
Please,
let's know
please,
which
please.
one. Because
No,
there
it's
is
referring
not
to what
about.
was
You know what?
lead.
Let us allow
That's what I'm
him.
saying.
Look. He says
isolate his
that
issues and deal with it.
that is reasonably required for the purpose of safeguarding the people of Ghana against the teaching.
What are you
He's
reading?
reading 21E.
21
Yes.
is not what you are reading.
21E is what he's reading.
Oh,
isn't it?
my brother.
21E. 21E
21 is what he's
We
reading.
have 3 lawyers.
21(4)(e).
Yes.
That was, I did it in Parliament. I worked on it in Parliament.
Yes.
I couldn't mistake it for anything.
Yes, so go on.
Yes.
You really a fool. You're a fool.
I don't think he's talking about the law. Okay, go on.
I think it would be good for us to take it from the preambular point.
So don't worry, let him make his point.
No, but allow him to flow.
Let him make his point.
It's a whole sentence. So let him take it so that within context, people will understand it well. So he says that nothing in or done under the authority of the law. Thank you. You have been easily persuaded.
You don't need to belabor the point.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Nothing in or done under the authority of a law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this article to the extent that the law in question makes provision for that make provision that is reasonably required for the purpose of safeguarding the people of Ghana against teaching or propagation of a doctrine which exhibits or encourages disrespect for the nationhood of Ghana, the national symbols, the emblems, or incites hatred against members of the community. And you think that there's no elements of freedom of speech there? You think so?
Oh, I don't think so.
No, you don't think so?
No, don't worry.
If you are teaching hate, if you are teaching, if you are propagating a thought, okay, or a doctrine, that is a species.
Which exhibits or encourages disrespect.
Please, let's take it.
Description.
Yes.
Oh, let's take it one by one.
No, but read it as a whole. That's how we all interpret Constitution.
No, please,
I want
let's take it
him
as a whole.
I want us to focus on what happened in
I'm
Parliament.
first of all trying to demonstrate to you that when you say somebody is propagating hate, a doctrine of hate, or propagating or exhibiting hate, that's an expression. It's a freedom. But that hate, the Constitution says, should not incite people against the state. But whatever even the wearing of your shirt is an expression.
Of course, I know
Yes.
that.
So if anything that you do that manifests a thought, a feeling, it's an expression. But the Constitution is saying that expression must not do something. I'm saying that when that thing found space in the law, we were worried, because what hate are we talking about? So we raised the issues. We said the powers were unlimited. We said language was very...
With all due respect, I think you didn't finish the sentence, though. Because it says that there's another clause.
It sends us back.
It is no, please.
When it gets to you, can go there. Let him speak.
Except so far as that provision, or as the case may be, the thing under the authority of that law is not shown to be reasonably justifiable in terms of the spirit of this Constitution. So even there, the limitations are clearly circumscribed in the Constitution itself.
The point is making is, was it even needed?
Okay, you let him.
That's what I'm saying. Let him go on.
Senior, go ahead. Senior, go ahead.
I don't know what.
Senior, go ahead.
First of all, except so far as the provisions, as the case may be, is qualifying A, B, C, D, E.
And E, exactly.
Okay, so I didn't need it. I didn't need to read it. Okay, because I'm demonstrating a matter of E.
It's because of your apprehension. That's what I'm saying, that those apprehensions are completely addressed by
allow him to
the
express his
proviso down
apprehensions.
there.
So we thought, why will the president bring that bill in a rush? Why will he want us to do the bill under a certificate of urgency? And
Because we have COVID-19.
good, because we have COVID-19. So why is this bill not dealing with COVID-19? Why?
You did not feel it wasn't?
It was not about COVID-19. And so why was this so? And come to think about it, under Article 58 of the Constitution, I believe on Saturday, last week when the president spoke, the president invoked his authority under Article 58 when he issued those measures. Okay, and all presidents have exploited that executive authority vested in them to put in measures of containment, measures that will reduce the spread of the disease. So when the president invoked his executive authority under Article 58 to restrict the movement of people and a procession of people or assembly of people, we recorded only one case of resistance in Kumasi. So people voluntarily voluntarily abided by the measures put in place. So why would the president need power, more power, to be able to do what he did under Article 58 without power, without any law? Then were we approaching a state of emergency? If it was about a state of emergency, the Constitution had anticipated a situation like this. Why didn't the president exploit the opportunity presented? Now, so we raised these issues. And then in the law itself, the bill that was presented, Clause 2E. Clause 2E said that the president could make an instrument under subsection 1. An instrument made under subsection 1 shall include provisions in respect of applicable offenses and penalties. Again, it was an attempt to constitute to give the president some legislative power. And that is contrary to Article 1911 of the Constitution. You cannot say that an executive instrument must determine offenses and penalties. You can't do that. And so that one they agreed. I mean, that we didn't argue. Even when
you went at committee level.
Even at the committee level, everybody said no. This one cannot be done. Now, the other matters. Look at Article 2, Clause 2(2). Even all those things, the specific restrictions to be imposed, the duration of the restriction, the persons on whom these are matters of a legislative nature. They're not executive. They're legislative. They're affecting rights in ways that when you look at legislation that seeks to restrict, to quarantine people, it gives the power to a minister to, by executive instrument, declare, like the Public Health Act, declare a public health pandemic. And then the bill and provisions of the law will kick into operation. Anybody within that area will be quarantined, where the quarantine will be. So these are matters of legislation and not matters of an executive instrument. Because that executive instrument, when it is finally made, will be in the nature of an instrument that creates some law. Okay, it will be an executive instrument with legislative underpinnings. Okay. So what will be the role of Parliament in checking, in ensuring that the use of that power is not abused? This was why I said it was unfettered. So we thought that we came to a conclusion, and it was by vote, 10-5, said, well, they believe that the bill was of an urgent nature. So we went back to committee. Unfortunately, we were able to work on the bill. Okay. We got we expanded the object to give full meaning of what the whole thing was about, even though they refused coronavirus.
So what is in there now?
The object now is to give power to the president to provide for powers to give effect to paragraph C, D, E of clause 4 of the Article 21 of the Constitution in the event of disasters, emergencies, and similar circumstances, and so on. So that's not the object. Now we deleted Article clause 2(e).
What was there?
Applicable offenses and penalties, and inserted in this place the constitutional provisions that mandates the president to give the full facts and circumstances under A, B, C, D. So if the president names a person, he must give the facts and circumstances, the duration why he thinks that it should be 2 months, 3 months, or 2 weeks. The person who is named, he must name the person who must know. The executive instrument must name the person, and the geographical area, wherever the person is, it must be named. So it should give the full facts and circumstances of the case. So we also said we now provided for penalties and offenses. Okay. So anybody who contravenes a provision of the executive instrument will be liable on summary conviction to a fine not less than 1,000 penalty units. We initially said 100, they said, and it was argued.
1,000 and then 5,000.
Yeah, 1,000, 5,000. They said 100 was too low and that people could abuse the instrument with impunity because some people had money. So it was 1,000 and 5,000, or a term of imprisonment of not more than 6 months or something like that. Yeah. We also now provided for a duration.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that what was being referred to as the sunset clause or something?
Yeah, but it's not a sunset clause, per se. I mean, it's an executive instrument. So we provide for duration. And we took the guidance from the Constitution that where the executive instrument is issued for the first time, it will be in operation for a period of 3 months.
Okay.
And so if after 3 months the president does not take, or if within the 3 months the president does not shorten the executive instrument, then the executive instrument will only last for 3 months. After 3 months,
that is if the thing has not abated.
If the thing has not been abated, and it will be there for 3 months. After 3 months, if the thing is still there, depending on the intensity and nature, he can extend, but periodically 1 month, extensions. So you didn't need a sunset clause because if after the 3 months the thing abates and he doesn't renew, the executive instrument would have been spent, and that's all.
All right.
Okay, and so that's what we did. We also said we deleted the language of the PDA.
you have modernized it a bit.
Yeah, no, we said the focus, we must move the test from the subjective view of the president to an objective view. Okay. So we said we delete the president is satisfied that certain. We delete that and say where circumstances make it expedient. And not the president. The circumstances of the case must make it expedient for the president to do certain things. So we deleted it, and I think that was about
basically it.
That was basically it, yes, and we passed it, yes.
All right. So at least now we know what the full imposition of restrictions. I don't think there's too much debate about this, apart from the early part where the three lawyers here, as usual, lawyers agree to this. They like to just disagree on certain things.
So the 21.4E that I spoke about,
yes,
is now the D.
Okay.
Now, many people got up to talk about this.
Okay, what's there?
No, that's the restriction is reasonably required for the purpose of safeguarding the people of Ghana against the teaching or propagation of the... some people said, because of our culture, if you are teaching... Somebody said, because of our culture, if you are teaching your people, not your children not to follow some other culture, and you know what I mean. I don't want to.
Certainly.
Yeah. So, will you be? The speaker said no. The whole provision is talking about activities within the context of Ghana. That if you are in one community, you can't propagate hate against another community. Okay. So it's not about we and them, like Ghanaians and foreigners. No. It's about
one section of
Ghanaians. One section of Ghanaians propagating hate against another. Now, to some extent, I agreed to this, but even though it's capable of abuse, I agreed to it because we have seen instances where, even with the coronavirus, some overzealous preacher could go and stand somewhere and say that this is a curse from God. And that community of people who will be quarantined, that number of people who will be quarantined will be a community. Yeah. A community of people suffering from the coronavirus. And somebody could go and preach against that this is clearly coming from punishment from God. And then incite the people against them. So to that extent, I think that I agree that this must be there. But it's definitely capable of being abused.
Okay, thank you very much. So like I said, there's not too much of a dispute. Honorable Inus Afuseni has provided clarity on the matter. But Lawyer Paul, I'm coming to you on a different...
So the last one, we said that...
No, this one,
the last one was sanitary services. The ministers were in the interpretation The minister said
As the essential services.
Yeah, no, sanitary services.
It comes under essential services.
Yeah. The minister said that we shouldn't say sanitary services. We should be waste management services. So that was the last amendment that we did.
All right. So thank you very much. Yes, Lawyer Paul, I want you to look at, there are a lot of legal issues on the table. Then I go to Franklin as well. The NIA matter, because when this COVID issue came, and I know you would like to handle it from there, everybody had spoken. The Ghana Medical Association had come out to express its reservations about what the NIA was doing. SRAJ came out to express its reservations, but the NIA also came out to explain that they felt their actions in continuing the mass registration exercise in the Eastern region was in line with the body and spirit of what the directives the president gave, and that they felt they had put in place enough mechanisms to create a safe space for the exercise. Eventually had to take a legal process. Can you explain a bit this? What is this? Has the injunction been placed, or once the matter has been filed in court, it simply halts the NIA from doing this until the case is settled? What is happening, and what did you make of that entire NIA business?
Well, thank you. I think that the worry that a lot of people, the concerns that a lot of people expressed were not misplaced. And I think it also were fueled by the silence of the NIA itself at the initial stages. The whole of, let's say, Friday to Saturday up to Sunday last week, I traversed some of the roads around the Eastern region, quite a lot. I saw a number of people trying to have their names registered. At that time, the president's directive had not been issued as at, I think, Friday. And so the queues were contained quite a reasonable number of people. On Sunday, I used the place, and I think the numbers had reduced quite a bit. I don't know whether the individuals themselves also decided that it was too risky to attempt to exercise that right. It could also be that the NIA reps in the communities had also advised that the numbers should be maybe reduced to a minimum at every point in time, because I didn't really stop. I cannot confirm, but obviously there was quite a substantial reduction in numbers. So that may have informed their decision to continue, thinking perhaps that those decisions were consistent with the president's directive. I mean, if it wasn't a total ban, we go to court. It was just a couple of days ago that further, and I should say more stringent, restrictive measures have also been issued in terms of even how many people can go to court. And I think that just to chip this in, when all this is done and Corona had finally is finally dead and his ghost buried, as is sometimes said, quite some lessons, positive lessons, though acquired painfully, would have been learned. I mean, elsewhere, I was informed by one judge about 3 months ago that if you even have a case in court on a day, but it's not your time, you cannot enter a courtroom. So, in terms of privacy, even if the person has been charged with a criminal offense, it's he, the lawyers, the prosecution alone. So when your case is 10 o'clock, you cannot go to the courtroom 9 to listen to other people's cases. Even though under our constitution we say that these cases, until or unless a court determines, may be heard in public in terms of in a room that is open. This as if maybe they had anticipated that apart from the privacy, the contagious diseases are all over and so on. So I think that when this is over, these are some of the measures that we can still think about. Because sometimes courtrooms are so full up that people stand outside, inside, there's natural noises, and sometimes it's even so difficult to hear what the judges say. Okay. And As for the disturbances outside, drumming and singing, it comes with it. But I think that we'll look at it and see if we may not have to replicate it even after all this is.
Our lives are changed forever.
But that is what happened after 911.
Yeah,
That's true.
After 911, now you get to airport, you have to take your belt, take your shoes, and all came about immediately after 911. Okay, and somebody confirmed me yesterday, and I just cast my mind back on that situation.
The 9/11
and 9/11, and the same thing after this, with a minimum variation here and there. So I think they may have been misapprehended the situation. I would say misled, and that has led to all this. I have seen a notice issued by the National Identification Authority to its staff that they are saying on the basis of the injunction which has been served on them. Now, you see, there's I would say a raging debate as to whether when a writ or an originating process, we call it so. I mean, when you are served with any summons that a case has been filed against you, whether that alone is enough to restrain you from going ahead to do something that the substantive writ is asking the court to restrain you from doing or compelling you to do. It's still ranging. Some say that when you go against a particular relief, that is substantive, and that is seeking to prevent you eventually, at least upon determination of the case, to do something or compel you to do, and you go against it, it may be an issue of contempt, even if there is no order for injunction. Some who take a positive view, as we call it, of these matters, may grant an application for contempt on that basis only. Some also insist that you must file an application for injunction, and that is why the rules provide for application for injunction. And some even say that the mere service of application for injunction is not enough to restrain you. But there are authorities now, even at the level of this.
Let me ask a stupid question.
Go ahead,
Given
sir.
the novelty of this case, where judges themselves are running away from the case, would you think that? Would you think if a judge have to wait in order to issue?
Well, the interesting thing also is that because part of the directive that was given was to the extent that judges may be slow, if I may use another word, in even committing people to remand. Of course, there could be fines or even strong caution. Yes, or just give an undertaking to be of good behavior. Those can be some of the matters, or maybe compelling you to stop or go and do what you were supposed not to do and all that. So the third one is that you have to be served with the injunction, go to court, let the court grant the application for injunction, and then if you violate that order, that can be a ground for contempt. If you ask me, I think I go more with the service of injunction, because it's not for nothing that the rules provide for an injunction to be filed. But as soon as it's served on you, I think that you may be putting yourself into serious contempt situation if you go against it. There's a case, now versus Dombo. Of course, that supports the first part. When the government then tried to remove this person because they thought he was an alien. In fact, they had a divorce case. I don't know whether his uncle was in government, one of the parties. And in the course of that, an executive instrument was issued to remove the guy from Ghana under the law. Eventually, the person filed an application in court. And the minister still went ahead and issued an executive instrument to remove him from Ghana. And the court said no. That amounts to contempt, even though there was no application before the court for injunction. And so these executive instruments and what they can be used for, which Honorable, I don't know whether he insinuated or maybe anticipated, it may not be misplaced. But except that we've gone very far from 1963 and so on, the 1970s to now. Now, the restrictions that we have are inherent in the Constitution, and even civil society and the public Because years ago, a case can be given for many years. Nobody will even know that there is a decision like that. Now, immediately, the journalists will even, especially what involves a person who is politically exposed or maybe in the civil society or in the public. So, I think that to be too difficult or more difficult now for anybody who has the power to issue executive instrument to abuse it. Because the consequences, if for nothing at all, during election, there have been some example where the president exercised his own right that he had. The majority of the Supreme Court have also he had that right. But he failed. It is suggested that part of the reasons why he lost the election was because he exercised that power, which the Constitution even grants him. And so these things are very important, that when you are giving these powers, what we sometimes forget is what he knows, the political economy aspect of political power. The moment you lose sight of it, you may be very sure you are winning an election, which you seriously want to win, but these matters can end up then you losing. So I think that both Professor Tifa is a very renowned lawyer. I mean, he has gone far with the law. He has a legal team, I know. And then also the persons who have filed the application also have Nick Papo and his friends.
Oh, really?
There's another one also, which I think about 26 or so people who have filed it in the general jurisdiction. And this one is in the human rights. I think that in the interest of justice and in the national interest, on the first day the case is called, I think there is enough indication to the managers of the national identification that they were doing it in good faith, but it looks like there is more concern about it being halted than the concern that people should exercise that right of theirs to have their names registered. Of course, we believe that within the 1 month period, a lot will be done to maybe curtail this scare down by the grace of God. And then I think they can continue doing it. So the worry is the insinuation about, the political aspect of it and so on. So I think that Professor Tefa may, in addition to what they've issued to their members, may have to give a public declaration so that he will express his thoughts. Not because people think that it was malafide, it was in bad faith that this was done. And that declaration or thought is overwhelming. It is, and he is the head. And knowing his track record, I think he has to publicly come and explain to us, which is something that is not beyond him to do, why these things went on. It will not prejudice the outcome of the case. But if you issue just this note to your staff, and it has found its way to the public anyway, the public may think that, what about us? We have expressed concerns. Those who have gone to court are in court. And I will pray that both cases should be settled on the very day they go to court.
Okay.
If all they want, the other side wants, is that we should stop or halt it, and it's possible we should halt it. If we can find a way, because we are settling, there should be compromises. If he can convince us also that we will make sure that only 10 people at a time, or within the stipulated number that the president, executive instrument or the president has given, we will maintain that. And if we default, then consequences should follow. That can also be a compromise, so that it becomes a win-win situation. Mind you, they have facilities, they have hired people, and we have to factor all this into consideration, and not that we want, what we want is total end to it or stay, and then they will also say that it's within our right under the law to do it. We can find a compromise that will work for everybody. Compromise? That's what I'm saying, that we can find a compromise.
Because the thing is this, if you look at Franklin, and you will bear me out on this, the process of the biometric verification is very similar to what the passport people do.
No, this is registration, not biometric. No. You mean biometric registration?
Yes, it is a biometric registration.
Yes.
Franklin goes, there's a device. He puts his 4 fingers on it and his stamp. He leaves. It is not sanitized.
Why is it not?
That is because of the nature of the
machine.
So
it's not sanitizable?
No, exactly. That is why the passport people have said, hold on.
Okay.
Lawyer Aban follows, goes to put his fingers there and goes. When we are dealing with a disease that says, do not have that kind of contact. So whatever kind of compromise that you want to have will not remove the technology itself is blocking you. From that, the technology is blocking you. So it will be interesting when this goes to court.
Maybe it has some inherent facilities that will not allow coronavirus to also.
Maybe then the health people need to look into. But frankly, what did you make of the NIA's situation until it went to court?
See, until it went to court, I wasn't concluding within the domains of power and politics.
Really?
That was what it sounded to me.
You were doing your vested interest things.
Because I never understood the rationale. I mean, it bordered on what the Guinean president is doing right now. Total, disregard for human life. And I was worried because, my good friend Atefa, ordinarily on a good day, would not yield to something like this. So I was a bit surprised. The attempt to sound legalistic, that, well, look, the president has given directives and we are acting within, was another affront to what is happening internationally and locally. To think that, just as you explained, the contact issue, the social distancing matter, are very important. I mean, irrespective of how much we have already invested, and I do know that the NIA needs a lot of money to be able to continue the exercise, because it's a public-private partnership stuff. And the fact that a lot has been sunk into the project already does not permit anybody within that authority to act in the manner that they were acting. I mean, I saw some of the videos. Initially, I thought when they said they were observing the social distancing rule, I thought it was actually enforced, and I was going to see 2-meter gaps. But these were closely, people who were sitting next to each other. And you bet, most of those people probably did not even understand what is going on globally, right? So the argument that maybe the persons themselves should have also known that it was risky to their lives probably doesn't arise, because again, you'd have thought the NIA, as a public institution, would rather be helping the government propagate the fact that this is a dangerous disease that we are dealing with, really. I mean, if it was the other economic issue, really, come on. The global stocks are tumbling, right? And there are packages that are being put together to support them. I suspect if the NIA believes that maybe time and money is not on their side, all those things are stayed right now. They are virtually stayed. And so, without belaboring the point really, I mean, as I said, until the order came, not the order, because there's no order yet, application, and I think Nick Kwakosama was huffing and puffing on radio saying they will likely go to jail. I'm sure that is, I mean, the thought of it must have also encouraged. And again, I think the popular uproar. So they've done the right thing, and I think that we'll leave it at that.
Okay, let me take some messages from Twitter, and then we'll come back and wrap up the conversation with the NDC versus EC at the Supreme Court.
So, am I not going to say anything about this?
On the NIA? Yeah. Okay, let me just go through my messages.
Go through your messages.
And then come to you. Andrew Asani on Twitter says, is asking why isn't National Security holding people for 2 weeks at the airport? Peter Hyde, he's being pretty cynical here. He says the NIA is working for the EC. They're making sure that the EC will be able to start their registration in time. Do the maths, he says. And more coming in from Richard Mensah. He says, we cannot risk our lives. Let's apply wisdom to prayer and act. Accra market today is more congested than ever. Spraying alone isn't enough. Let us restrict movement for a month. And I must say, I was on my way to the office this morning. If you are headed towards Kaneshi, Agbogloshi, or Makola, you are in for trouble.
No, it's panic buying because you did not get the import of the message.
Yes, which is why I tried to explain
it's only
what the
day,
AMA
Monday.
said, that the market will be closed for just Monday and open the day after. Let's see. Is this Vision 2020 we're told about? I just think testing is not enough. Let us test more. More allocation for test kits should be made, but more importantly, let's keep to the guidelines and PPE usage. And speaking of the testing, Honorable Aban, more homework for you. You need to follow up on the status of Jack Ma's donation of test kits, because when you follow other countries, it looks like it's arrived. It has arrived. A lot of countries have confirmed reception of theirs.
I'll find out from you.
Yeah,
I'll find out from you.
That's free.
It's free.
We can later have a conversation.
100 million.
No, you should stop this 100 million.
We can later have a conversation on that.
Yes, I'm just saying, add it to your list.
But what was this about the 100 million, by the way? Is it ready? Is it not ready?
We don't know about that.
What do you mean you don't know about that?
Let me read my messages, Frank. Let me read my messages on our message board. Why are all of you being diplomatic with Professor Tifa in this case? He acted badly and equated Ghana to an election republic where people in the authority, including politicians, don't care about other people. This is an upset Charles in Legon. Mark Paradise Okocha from Happy FM says, if the imposition of the restrictions bill is going to help us, we should let it go in our own interest. At this material stage, politics will not help us. Well, if you listen to Honorable Minister, they found a compromise that works well for all citizens.
So, would the president declare state of emergency?
Okay? Yes, it's fine. I think he's clarified.
So he would declare.
No, he'll declare. No, he doesn't want to declare. He says it's not up to emergency.
Yes, I really wanted to.
But what you did was to help him declare.
No, he's not going to declare. He's just going to. So now, it will not be significantly different from what he has done. But now he can pinpoint people, X, Y, Z. You are restricted. You can't move beyond this place, and you must be kept at this geographical area and whatnot.
Yeah, but it still be called a state of emergency.
No. So the exercise of powers under this act.
So more messages coming in. Michael from Gomwa West says, I am enjoying the show this morning. Please tell our MP we need him to be more visible in the constitution. So I think you should also have to forgive Honorable Aban. In this day where we are dealing with COVID-19, he is the deputy health minister. No, he cannot be in the constituency.
No,
he has to be for everybody.
He should take it seriously.
These are serious.
He understands that.
When this percentage starts coming, you are in danger.
Yeah, you should take it seriously.
Okay. So you are being advised by your senior colleague there. But they said they want to see you a bit more. Michael from Gomwa.
But you see you on TV.
No. But I also appealing.
Coming there.
It's different.
Yes, it's different.
I'm also appealing on his behalf. As we are dealing with COVID,
it's not easy.
He's on the front lines.
No, but we don't see you. It's not just the
maybe you should go and distribute some hand sanitizers.
Yes.
All right, let me just finish up with the messages. 17 imported. What country are we just watching to? What country we are? We are just watching. Just watching to kill us. Whilst Parliament is debating on what?
Who imported these things are also Ghanaians.
People are not really bothered by that at the moment.
The issue about Ghanaians, and I think this is where we should be careful. The fact that they are Ghanaians, the disease doesn't know whether you are Ghanaian
or not. Yes,
so the issue is not about the fact that they are Ghanaian, they are returning, so they should just be allowed.
Yeah, I think
you need to be
refusing them entry, but when they enter,
that's
almost impossible to restrict a Ghanaian.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what I'm advocating.
But then when they
enter,
enter,
I'm advocating now.
Yes.
When they come, we should just quarantine.
Yes,
everybody.
Okay. Let's see. We need more education on how this virus can be transmitted and is this preventive measures. Well, again, like I said, if you listened to the show from the first part, Dr. Delali Jaku has provided quite a bit of education. Dr. Okuboy did so last week as well. The director from the Port Health Services also did. So quite a lot of education is going. But also understand, from Franklin was saying, I get a lot of messages from people who are saying, well, they have relatives calling them from other parts of the country who have not heard anything. I cannot really confirm or deny this because the Ministry of Information, for instance, 3 days ago announced a scale-up in resources where they are sending thousands of people into the communities, all the districts. They've provided a lot of flyers.
So I think the depth of education is one thing hearing it, is another knowing what to do.
Yes,
okay.
No, but the point is that I have realized, to my utter dismay, that our people do not like anything newsy. All they want is the
soft issues.
No, even the
political issues.
No, I'm not even talking about political issues. You know, the drama and the soap operas. They like watching those ones.
Yeah, so use them to propagate
Exactly.
this message.
So
they used to do it.
use their commercial breaks as well.
We are coming to show you, Sene.
And
then they will use that to just propagate some of these
One
things.
message has just cut through from Thomas Sotti. He says, honestly, the education level with the COVID-19 in our suburban areas in Greater Accra is very, very low. Yesterday, I called my sister who lives at Ashaiman, Lebanon, and she didn't know jack about the virus. I had to spend 30 minutes to educate her and 5 other families over the phone for about 30 minutes. And another message, somebody is not very happy with the disinfection at the markets, says that who took the decision to close down major markets in Accra on the same day for disinfection?
All of them.
We will end up creating the problem we are trying to avoid. It has led to panic buying, and all the markets are crowded this morning. Why are we not doing this disinfection in phases? No. Common sense is not common to common people, he says.
I don't think
the problem with coronavirus is that you can't segment.
You can't segment. I don't think this message is fair.
But you
He doesn't understand the scale of what he's dealing with.
That's why. No, his point is
you do what he
No.
So that
He's
people go here.
He's saying the disinfection could have been done. So you say
this is not vaccination exercise.
And then
because at the moment
the next day the procedure.
We'll take a quick break. Big issue, right back. Welcome back to the big issue with Honorable Inusa Fuseni, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa, Honorable Alexander Aban, Deputy Health Minister, and lawyer Yao Opong. And final segment of the show, you can keep sending in your messages, 0549 986 996. 0549-986-996, 0550-585832. And the last 30 minutes, we'll talk about the one story that was not COVID-based that came out this week. Yes, this one was not COVID-based, but a lot of people say, well, the NDC and their friends at the APRAN had been voting with their feet for some time now on the EC's decision.
The demonstration.
Voting with their feet.
The news.
Yes. Yes. Not the news house.
No.
I'm talking about the inter-party resistance against the new voters register.
That's right. Apron.
Yes.
IPRAN.
It sounds nice.
Yeah.
Very mischievous.
Yeah. So finally, well, there are a lot of people had been saying, why don't you go to court? Why don't you go to court? Well, in the course of this week, we got this. It looks like the NDC has had enough, and they are heading towards the court. It says in the Superior Court of Judicature, in the Supreme Court of Ghana. And it says this is between the NDC and the Attorney General, the Electoral Commission as the defendants. And I'm just going to read quickly what the NDC is.
What reliefs are they seeking?
I'm going to read
Why don't you allow the lawyers?
I'll read it and then the two of them can deal
To
with
save
it.
time, why don't you allow him to rather tell you what they are seeking?
Well, this is the public.
Let's
I have to read it for the public as well. So, basically, the National Democratic Congress of Accra, the nature of the reliefs they are seeking are that one, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 45A of the 1992 Constitution, second defendant has a constitutional power to and can compile a register of voters only once and thereafter revise it periodically as may be determined by law. Accordingly, second defendant can only revise the existing register of voters and lacks the power to prepare a fresh register of voters for the conduct of the December 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. Or in the alternative, 2, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, specifically Article 51, read conjointly with Article 42 of the Constitution, the power of the second defendant to compile and review the voters' register must be exercised subject to respect for and the protection of the right to vote. A declaration that upon the true and proper interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, particularly Article 42, upon the registration of and issuance of a voter identification card to a person, that person has an accrued right to vote which cannot be divested in an arbitrary and capricious manner. 4, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, particularly Article 42 of the Constitution, all existing voter identification cards duly issued by the second defendant to registered voters are valid for purposes of identifying such persons in the exercise of their right to vote. 5, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the Constitution, specifically Article 42, the second defendant's purported amendment of Regulation 1, Sub-Regulation 3 of the Public Elections Regulations 2016 CI 91 through the Public Elections Regulations 2020 to exclude existing voter identification cards as proof of identification to enable a person apply for registration as a voter is unconstitutional, null and void, and of no effect whatsoever. There's a series of releases. I think this 4 and 5 is where the meat of the matter is. So, Honorable Minister.
The real law is.
And so,
Honorable Minister Hussaini.
And so this action is precipitated by a constitutional instrument that was laid in Parliament on Tuesday night
By the EC.
by the majority leader on behalf of the EC, seeking to amend CI 91. CI 91 are the regulations made by the Electoral Commission pursuant to Article 51 of the Constitution to regulate the conduct of elections in Ghana. In CI 91, voter ID card is a source document for registration if your card is lost or missing and you want to replace it. You show evidence that you were already on the the register, and then you can be replaced. Now, the Electoral Commission is amending this and saying that, look, the voter ID card cannot be a primary document, cannot be a source document for the authentication of your citizenship as a Ghanaian.
Because they think that voter ID is
well, they have not provided reasons.
It's compromised.
They have not provided reasons, but we simply do not understand. First of all, that amendment is absurd.
Very.
Because the bill has been laid in Parliament. It started its journey. In 21 days, the bill matures. So voter ID card is no longer a card for the purposes of authenticating or identifying you as a Ghanaian. If after 21 days there's a by-election, what happens? The Electoral Commission has not compiled a new register. There's a by-election. You're saying that the voter ID card cannot be a source document for the purposes of identifying you as a Ghanaian, but you have no document to undertake a by-election. What document are you going to use? You're going to bring back that voter ID card for the purposes of the election. That's why it is absurd. Number 2, the Abu Ramadan, the whole matter, someone said kafulu about this thing, is about Abu Ramadan. And the court stated emphatically that the voter ID card is the most verifiable document for identifying a person as a Ghanaian.
And this is also the Supreme Court.
This is the Supreme Court. Because it springs from Article 42. The voter ID card takes its basis from Article 42, which says that every Ghanaian,
every citizen of Ghana,
who, of 18 years of age and above, and of sound mind, has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a Ghanaian, as a voter, for the purpose of public elections and referenda. So this is the basis upon which you are given a voter ID card, because you are registered, and so you are given a card. Now, so when you take the provisions one by one, it creates what we lawyers call a rebuttable presumption that anybody holding a voter ID card is a what? It's a Ghanaian. Now, that's why I said rebuttable. Because if you send the card and they have reasons to believe that you are not a Ghanaian, you are holding the card illegally, you can be prosecuted for it, and your name removed from the register. And so this suit is seeking, first of all, to get the Supreme Court to rely on its own pronouncement, which it made in Abu Ramadan, that the voter ID card is a veritable document for establishing the Ghanaianness of a person. Number two, if you read Article 42 carefully, no, Article 45 carefully. Is it 45? Yes, 45, 1 carefully, which gives the Electoral Commission the power to compile a register. It says the Electoral Commission shall have the following functions: to compile the register of voters and revise it at such periods as may be determined by law. The concluding phrase, it is the view of the lawyers that the concluding phrase regulates only revising it. But the function in 45A contemplates a register, the existence of the register.
Okay.
And that you revise the register from time to time. And that there is nowhere in this constitution or in any other law that power is given to the Electoral Commission to compile a new register as and when they think fit. There's nowhere. Now, the third thing is that the Electoral Commission, when that is for Parliament, when it brought this bill to Parliament, it accompanied the bill with a letter. And the practice that evolved, consequent upon a decision, there's a decision of court on CIs, that it encouraged the pre-laying of a CI or an LI, because immediately the LI is laid, you can't make changes.
It's not the new primary. I think the primary
case. You can't make changes. And so it is always important and advisable to meet with the committee to look at the LI so that you are all satisfied that it contains matters that it ought to contain. Because when it starts its journey to maturity, it must move for 21 days in the House to be able to mature. Any withdrawal of the CI for an error cancels the journey that has already been made. It has to start afresh.
Okay.
Now, so the Electoral Commission had written a letter accompanying this CI in which they had said that they were inviting the subsidiary committee to a pre-laying meeting. I don't know whether those who laid the CI did not read the letter. And so that is a difficulty that we have now. I think that this case will offer us all an opportunity to deepen our democracy and understand precisely what the remit of the exercise or the functions of the Electoral Commission is under Article 45A. Whether or not we contemplate the compilation of a register as and when, as the provision says, at such periods as may be determined by law, or is there revise? We can only revise the register at such periods as may be determined by law.
Okay.
So that is what the suit is filed by Ayini.
But I think
Ejuji signed for is the lawyer. And so that's it.
All right. Lawyer Pong.
Very interesting, except that once it's in court, and of all places, the Supreme Court, we run the risk of taking off the feathers.
Okay. If you are, let me go to Francis.
Let me, because he has even gone into
Mima. What I'm saying is not part of the
my point. Is it interpretation that must be placed?
My point is
that, that's what the court is.
My point is that
I have a question.
Even the use of the word compile, it doesn't mean create or originate.
Thank you.
It says get or gather together.
Good.
This is the English dictionary.
Yes.
And if you want to go by that, and unless you can use the argument of prospectivity and retrospectivity, then anybody who was issued voters ID in 1999 or 92.
92. That's a question.
And whose voters ID is not 1992 one now, is not holding a valid voters ID.
But the point is that is why the register is open for what?
Periodic.
No, but then
so
it will mean that the 1992 one is what they should be using now. And that if you were issued, just a second, if you were issued with voters ID in 1992, it was abandoned when I think 94 or so, when you can correct me, when we decided to abandon it and to do a new one, that one that you are holding is also invalid. But we admit that, just a second, we admit that these registration processes have been evolving
exactly
over the years.
And now with technology,
if we were to go by, and now I'm looking at two perspectives. If we were to look at the first perspective, that the Electoral Commission can only compile, and if you take the word compile to mean create or originate, which I disagree, then what it will mean is that all those people are not holding valid IDs, and therefore they cannot be allowed to vote. The other side also is that, for me, the word compile and to revise should not be given the literal meaning. And in any case, we are interpreting the Constitution, but we'll leave the technicalities aside. So if you ask me, I think that it is an interesting relief that they have put out. The consequences of a declaration on a first perspective or the second one can be far-reaching, and therefore it is up to all of us to at least also look at the circumstances of it. The first part, that is what he said, but the second part is about the validity of a voter's ID. The Supreme Court in that same Ramadan case determined that some persons were holding the ID cards, but because of the source of which informed the compilation, that is why I said gather and get. The source itself was an invalid source.
So the Supreme Court may then ask the EC, upon what basis? Have they done an audit of the register?
Of course, the Supreme Court ordered them to come to court and show which ones were they issued or on the wrong source or the invalid source. And I understand that they only brought just a few percentage, to about 5 or 10% of what they themselves had admitted in court, that even with the foreign registration as well. So I think the presumption is not just rebuttable.
It's true.
It is even more serious when it comes to just saying that the mere holding of a voter's ID card is a presumption, not that you are a Ghanaian, but you actually qualify to vote. Some people forget the other very important qualification, sound mind. Sound mind. It's also very important. Yeah. That is why some of us argue that you cannot use a national identification card for the EC to generate the registration, because the national identification is not mandated to register people who are of sound mind.
But that's the presumption that the EC must have registered everybody of sound mind.
Yes, so that is why I'm saying that if you are taking, if you take it from just the national identification and just use it, that once a person, one, he must be a Ghanaian, 2, 18 years and above,
it's true,
and of sound mind.
It's true.
So that qualification is also important, and therefore the EC still has the mandate to, even if they are compiling, the word means gather from other sources, they still have to authenticate whether or not the person is not just a Ghanaian, 18 years, of sound mind.
It's true. All
right, and also all the other qualifications. So it is very important. I think we can, I will hope that like the Supreme Court does these days, sometimes the first day you go to court, they ask you to argue, unlike previously where go and file this and go and file that. These days, they fast track it. So you go to court prepared. On the very day you remember the National Cathedral? No, sometimes they can even just give an interlocutory ruling that will just take off the case itself or affirm it, in all fairness. So I think these are one of, especially those who file to ensure that it is dealt with expeditiously. They have a number of, they only filed the reliefs, which they are allowed to, and then subsequently filed, I think within 2 weeks, filed the statement of case.
Oh, okay.
I would have wished that had been done together with it. Then the Attorney General and the EC will have also their 2 weeks. So it can be swiftly done, and then within a month or so, this case should be off. Unfortunately,
maybe the way they want to.
Corona has also upset even the cost list of the court. And the one wonders whether a special dispensation may be fashioned out for a case like this, which is quite pressing.
Yeah.
And mind you, Corona is all over the place, spreading these tentacles. And now
that's assuming the EC itself knows about Corona.
I just
They said they'll go ahead.
Let me give Honorable Abbas
I think advice about
a few minutes on this, and then we can wrap up the conversation. Well, Franklin actually, hold on. Franklin said he wanted to say something.
You don't want me to say anything?
No, go on.
Well, I think this case is interesting. In fact, at some point, some people were entertaining the thought that we should also join because of the issues that we had raised. But again, these are political issues.
That may not be constitutional.
That may not be.
That may even be for High Court.
Actually, and I thought, I mean, these are very interesting cases. I mean, the only thing that seemed to jump at me would be if the case is heard properly. And then no, I'm just saying this because it's very important, because you have suggested that at some point it may be the case that the first day they go, they argue out, and then they may decide whether to throw it out.
On the merits, of course. So you go prepared.
Yeah. So what it means to me, I mean, what jumped at me clearly is now the EC may have to be called to come and justify why they need to compile a new register.
Court,
and that is where the matters would unravel, because that's where you need to then show, maybe through the Auditor General, whether you've conducted an audit of the processes leading to you now saying that the register is compromised. And so you need to, because don't forget, the EC has not made any argument of that nature, that the register is compromised, and the reason for which they are compiling a new register. They may now be compelled to come and show why they actually need to compile a new register, irrespective of whether
the subject matter of this case may not call for.
But that's what I'm saying. So maybe
a High Court matter.
Well, that would be interesting, because
no issue of interpretation of the Constitution, and then there you go, and then facts.
Well, I get you. Maybe somebody else should take it to court. We will never. We will seek. I'm not going to court on this issue at all. We'll do it in the court of public opinion. But the point is, so if somebody is interested in taking, if someone is interested in taking up the case, they should actually take up the case, because this is really interesting. I think
that argument is very sound.
I think it's important, because the EC has not argued out at all. In fact, I recall that during Charlotte Osei's time, when the MPP raised the issue, in fact, it had to take the biometric system to be able to check out 150,000 names that were duplicated. So the systems exist currently to be able to detect if the register is compromised. And even then, you have to determine the percentages. If it is less than 1%, you cannot decide that the entire register. So it's a classic case, really. And I think, even though you are suggesting that this will not be the matters that are before the court, maybe you should engineer it, and let's someone take it to court.
I'll be violating my ethics.
Quickly, you have the benediction.
Today, somehow, you have gagged me.
No, I have not.
A lot of platforms already, perhaps.
No, I know you wanted to be charitable to me. That I should not talk too much because I'm tired. But be that as it may, this is going to be very interesting, because I think that the whole issue is going to bother on what kind of construction the Supreme Court is going to place on Article 45.
That's one word, compile.
Okay. That the Electoral Commission shall have the following functions. A, to compile the register of voters and revise it at such periods as it may be determined by law. And when you're going to use the word the register, the question is, before the creation of the Electoral Commission, was there a register?
So that's another interpretation.
That's point, because the register
means
for as long as they have used the definite article, meaning that something actually does exist.
Exactly.
But is that a question? Good. Then the issue of and revise it at such periods as may be determined by law. Now, if we should use the first register as the register.
Which register are you referring to? There's a
That would have
register.
been good. So that would
There's
mean
a register before this case was taken to court.
good. So let us even assume that if the first register, because we are talking about the Constitution, which gave
I'm not
birth
talking
to-
about 1992 because
I
want to hear the argument.
So let me string the argument together.
Yeah.
So if the first register compiled, now we are using the words, they are very ordinary meaning.
Yes. Yes.
Compiled by the Electoral Commission is the register. Then it means that must have been the register which was used in the election of 1992. Right?
Yes.
Over the period, is it that register which has been revised up to this point?
Yes.
Is that what has been revised?
Yes.
there was
this point?
another registration.
Now,
wasn't
There
there?
are 3 or 4
Now,
already.
Wait, I'll
Now-
demonstrate to the why that is revised register.
Now, points came when we realized that, look, this business of just having a thumbprint on a card was not good enough. The whole thing was thrown off.
We need a
Then we went to photo.
Yes.
Then even from photo, we went to color.
Yes.
Color photo.
Yes.
Okay. Thereafter, then biometric.
Yes.
Right.
That's where
Would
the case
you
was sit.
describe all those exercises as a revision
Yes.
of the register?
Yes.
Okay, I mean we are only thinking aloud.
yeah.
We will leave the determination.
But it's an interesting.
Please let me finish. Oh,
Just a minute.
That's the issue. You see, the issue is simply this.
Yeah.
so
The issue that
so
is
was there an
important-
illegality when
No, it's not illegal. I'm just demonstrating. The issue in court
prospectivity.
is that the exclusion of the voter register from identification as a source document is unconstitutional.
And you have to give
So
reasons why that
1992
register. I think
So when I
that's the
explained
point.
my 1992,
No,
it doesn't
listen.
matter. I see the point.
1992, before you migrated onto the register,
There was a register.
There was a register. Before you migrated onto it, you had to submit your register card, your
Exactly.
voter register card,
It's true.
to migrate
Before
onto it.
92.
Yes.
it's going to
No,
be it's going to be an interesting show that we
the
Supreme
first
Court.
one.
So let's see
get
how.
to the 92nd, you have to submit your voter register
Exactly.
to migrate.
Before the biometric, you needed to
Submit your voter register to migrate.
But this year,
So let us see.
It's an interesting case.
Let us see how it plays out in the Supreme Court.
All right. We will not be there. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Let me just take a few messages and then we'll wrap up. The health experts, one of the most concerning issues around the emergence of the COVID-19 is whether those who have it can get it a second time and what it means for immunity. Honorable Nusa Nia Kwe says, is Honorable Nusa a lecturer? If not, he should consider it. He makes law very simple. And let's say Lasibi again, Frederick Neram says, I think the government should start thinking about how to make available food and basic amenities to us. After that, they can go ahead and
It's a
lock down
serious
the entire
matter.
country. Are you sure?
But this lockdown decision is not easy.
So
With all its implications.
a big thank you to lawyer for Honorable Yusuf Alexander Aban,
Lockdown.
Franklin Kujo. My name is
Lockdown
Godfred
for 14
Akoto Boafo.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Big Issue. Have a good weekend.